Hello, welcome to the Ramsrider podcast. I'm your host, Simon. Joining me today is back, the king of the turtleneck. It's Ryan Conway from The Athletic. Ryan, good evening. Are you well? How are you?
I'm all right. I'm not even in a turtleneck this evening. I was in one earlier when I was in my work clothes. But I'm just in a little Guardians of the Galaxy t-shirt going on right now.
You see, you've had a bit of a trim as well. The hair's gone, the beard's gone. I've done the same. Well, the hair's been gone for ages, but
Well, mine's going that way, bro. Mine is going that way as well. So we have to make the most of it.
yeah, but at least I have my beard. Now I've got to find another way to hide my double chin, So at least you've not got that problem. That's fine.
Not yet.
Hey, another couple of years working for Derby, you never know. So then, obviously that podcast today. Then only one main talking point, breaking news, which came from The Athletic, who you obviously work for. Was your one of your colleagues, Matt Slater, broke the news. The Derby County are in talks, I suppose, with Sheikh Kaled, who, if you didn't know, is Sheikh Mansour, Manchester City's owner's cousin, and he's in talks to buy or take over the club, which I think has taken the Derby County Twitter base and Facebook base and Instagram base all by a bit of storm. I think there's a few sort of mixed feelings. Some saying, "Oh, this is amazing," which I'm in that camp. And then obviously there's, for whatever reason, there is some not political, but issues that, behind the guy, that he's had amongst human rights and things like that. But this is a takeover. It's something that I think, well, Mel Morris has been after for a while now. And I think, now is probably the best time to sort of do this. I mean, Ryan, when you heard the news, what were your thoughts? Were you shocked, or did you think, yeah, it's sort of the right thing to do? Or
I wasn't shocked. I was shocked by who was, supposedly taking the club over, but I wasn't shocked that a takeover was announced. It always felt a little bit inevitable in my opinion. Mel has been after investment for a good while now. That is no secret.
Yeah.
I always got the sense that if a good enough bid came, he would sell. There was around the MSD stuff, the investment there, and there were reports at the time that was with a view to a takeover. And that turned out, I think, to be a loan.
Yeah.
So it's always been, that the potential for Mel to move.
Oh, technical.
But the party that is now being proposed to be taking over the club is the bigger shock to me. So yeah, I think upon reading it, I was kind of like, oh, okay. I expected a takeover eventually, but I didn't expect that.
No, that, like I say, I think, I mean, I've said on my shows, I think it's sort of the time for Mel to sort of sell. He's done what he can with the club. The money is invested into the academy. The money is invested in trying to get us promoted, and I just think the funds have obviously, we've seen now, the funds have obviously ran out with the loans from MSD and Henry Gabai as well earlier last year. But to hear it's a sheikh from Abu Dhabi and he's worth something like 118 billion, it's like, are you serious? Is this a joke? And I think when the story broke, it was like, no, surely, no way, because obviously I think he was sort of involved with the Newcastle takeover that, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. So it is incredibly complex, as all takeovers are. None of this is simple. So essentially, this sheikh doesn't have the same, father to the sheikh that owns Man City, which is, I think, what stopped the Newcastle takeover going through, is that I think the Premier League or someone believed that they were related.
Right.
And in this instance, it's believed that essentially very, very distant relative. So therefore, someone would claim, well, they don't have influence because they're just very distant relatives. It's mad. With all stuff like this, it's absolutely crazy. This sheikh has got, in terms of their portfolio, manufacturing and resorts and hotels and all that kind of stuff, and they test factories and all kinds of things like that. It looks like football. They're trying to add a football club to their portfolio, hence why they tried to buy Liverpool, hence why they tried to buy Newcastle. Derby's one of those that has massive upside to it, and at the moment, relatively speaking, it's cheap because COVID.
Yeah.
There are very few people in the world that could buy a football club in this current climate. A sheikh is one of those people. Because COVID makes the club cheap.
Yeah.
To buy. Now to run it, it's going to cost a bit more, but that probably won't bother them.
No, yeah. No, I mean, because I think one of the things I've seen is I've seen post about on sort of Twitter and things is what happens with the stadium. I mean, obviously we've got no idea of what the deal
that will have to be bought separately.
Yeah.
Because obviously Mel sold the stadium to himself.
Yeah.
The stadium will have to take place as a separate negotiation. Now it could be balled into the entire sale of the club, but usually when you buy a club, you buy all the assets that come with the club.
Yeah.
The club don't own that asset anymore, so that would have to be a separate deal if they wanted to purchase that. But you could still bundle it in with the entire takeover. I would imagine that if you're buying a club, you would want to own the place that it plays. So me personally, I would imagine that they would want to take on the stadium as well.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I think as well, what I've read as well was that Mel Morris, he might be selling the club, but it looks as if he'll be potentially sticking around as some sort of consultant.
And I think Mel has always wanted to be involved at some stage. That I think that has been a sticking point for other potential investments that could lead to takeovers. Is how involved was Mel going to be? He does still want to be involved in the club, and for some people, that was a bit of a stumbling block. And I think if you're a sheikh, having someone like Mel on board who knows the championship, not just as a football entity, but as a business entity that knows the championship.
Yeah.
That knows all the things with the the broadcasting rights in this country and all those nuances. Mel's good at that. What better guy than Mel? He's very good at that. He's a very slick businessman in that sense. He knows what's going on around the league and in the league. So if he stays on as a consultant, that's already kind of a good check mark next to that in terms of good moves made to keep him on board and let him guide you.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I suppose that's sort of come across my mind, and it's probably come across other people's minds, is, well, obviously Mel has this vision, of academy products making their way through into the first team, and we're getting promoted with half a squad that consists of academy products. Does that now go out the window? Does that now sort of, does the remit now change for Philip Cocu? Does he stick in a job? There's all these sort of questions, I suppose, that people have got on their lips, and the other thing, is, does that mean now, obviously we've got a rich owner, we can go out and flout and spend whatever we like, but obviously that surely can't be the case due to FFP.
Yeah, so basically I'll answer those questions in reverse order in terms of how much can you spend. The answer at present will still be not a lot, but it will be more than what you are currently been able to spend. So essentially the first £8 million in shares count towards FFP. So that would give, I think, the club, about eight more million to play with. The way you could do your accounting tricks would help you in terms of, I think, your stability. Also, a wage cap is probably due as well. If you're absolutely loaded, wages, you could just blow them out the water, and it wouldn't really bother you as a club. It'd be hard to offload players, but keeping hold of players on big contracts, I don't think would necessarily worry the Sheikhs. Certainly not in the short term. Maybe long term when they want to become a bit more, we hear it from Man City, a lot bit more holistic and want to keep those fees and budgets and finances down. Maybe in the medium to long term, that is an issue. But in the short term, where you can go, right, well, we want instant success, so we'll give you this money and you this money. As a salary cap, unless it's still going to be in the Championship within a remit, but you could almost certainly, if you really want a player and Brentford really want a player and you can offer them 10 grand more or whatever it is, you're not going to be dictated to by you can't afford wages anymore. I
suppose those negotiations where we sort of fell short in the summer wouldn't be an issue.
Harry Wilson would be one. The package of what I understood it to be was 5 million, because it wasn't just a fee and wages. It was some incentives and bonuses which Cardiff are at liberty to pay, was my understanding of that. So the package of 5 million, that stuff like that wouldn't be a problem for Derby.
No.
It probably would mean that they could dip into the loan market and get some of the players like Wilson, some of these players who do have big fees in the Premier League, but still need loan experience. So the first 8 million in shares count towards FFP, but FFP will probably soon be replaced by a wage cap anyway. And how that all works, Lord knows, because that hasn't been finalised. No one has any idea how that cap works. And I know that Derby are big supporters of the cap. But they need it to be high enough that you can still entice players to want to come to the division and to the club. Does Koku keep his job? Yeah, no one knows. No one knows until there's a lot of steps to take yet. No one knows. Maybe they come into town and throw oodles of money at whatever high profile manager is sat out there for a name, because a lot of the we see it a lot when big takeovers happen. Is a lot of it is about getting eyes on your product first and big names in through the door and stuff like that. So maybe Philip doesn't stick in a job, but who knows? There's a long way to go from there. In terms of, does the remit change? Probably not instantly, but I would imagine it won't be long until the remit does change, where you've got a lot of money behind you. And you would want promotion. And does the remit change in terms of the academy? I would think if Mel were to stick around, one of the things would be that the club, new owners, Mel would want that to remain a big part of the club. Now, how big a part is the question? Because naturally, if they're bringing in more senior players, if they're bringing in players who are more ready to play a full slate of 46 Championship games, and a better quality of player, Max Bird is not the finished product. If you can get someone more consistent, a pathway will be blocked. Now, Philip spoke and Mel spoke right at the very start of his tenure, the unveiling, that they don't want to block pathways for players. So maybe there'll be a little bit of friction there, but I imagine that's stuff that will be sorted out. That will be sorted out quietly in a boardroom somewhere where they're all sat round. There are a lot of discussions, I think, that need to be had between now and Takeover being complete. And again, we don't know if it will be.
Of course.
We thought the Newcastle one was complete. For weeks and weeks, we thought the Newcastle one was complete, and it collapsed. So while it's great for everyone to get excited, it isn't complete until it's complete.
Yeah, I mean, should we as fans be excited, but then also should we also be sort of like, we can't have a guy with a sort of record regarding human rights? I've not read into the human rights things. I've just seen it on Twitter. Should we? Are we allowed to be excited? It feels a bit a bit strange, because on the one we've got this billionaire potentially taking over our football club, and then the other hand, it's his past suggests he's not the greatest person to have doing that, and it's a weird one, because you want the best for your club, which obviously for us is promotion, and who knows where else after that, but then obviously there's the human side to you as well that says, you know what I mean? It's just
I put this out on Twitter. It's the debate of, can you separate the art from the artist? Can you separate Michael Jackson's music from the person Michael Jackson allegedly was?
Yeah.
As a wrestling fan, can you watch and appreciate Chris Benoit matches while separating yourself from the person that Chris Benoit was?
I know what
can wrestling fans will know what I mean with that one. Can you separate the art from the artist? If you can, then that is fine. If you cannot, then as a fan, you're placed in an awful position where you have to decide, well, am I now going to almost rescind my fandom because of this? And that's an awful position to be in. And I don't envy fans for that. And I don't think fans should be beaten with that stick. Ultimately, fans will make a decision. They've either already made it and don't care and just want the best for their football club. That's their opinion and that's their business. And that's absolutely fine if it works for them.
Yeah.
There will be fans that will continue supporting, but will be very uneasy with it, and that's fine. And there'll be fans that can't and will have to distance themselves and say, I just can't, I can't accept what that country does. The human rights record is appalling. It is awful. It is atrocious. It is not good. We're talking public hangings. We're talking, allegedly murdering people for being gay. We're talking, a deplorable record on women's rights. We're talking, just awful things that if they happened in this country, you would rightly say are deplorable. The human rights record is bad. If you can separate yourself from that, fine. You are entitled to be excited. As a football fan, you want the best players to come to your club. You want your club to have the financial backing to be able to compete. And in this environment, in a COVID world where finances are on their knees in the EFL, where the worry of will you even have a football club is a very real worry. This kind of thing gives fans hope because they won't go out of business. They'll be around for years and years. They will at least have a football club to go to for decades, and that for fans is all they want. Yeah. And if a sheikh will provide that, then that is all they need. Then that is fine for them. But ultimately, I think every fan will have to ask themselves an honest question and pick a direction: go this way or go this way. And by the way, neither way is wrong because thousands and hundreds and thousands and millions of Derby fans will have followed this club for decades. I don't think it's reasonable to ask a fan to turn their back on something that has been a part of their life for years, because they didn't ask to be taken over by this guy. They didn't ask for this to be part of them. So I think that is unreasonable in some ways. But I do think that every fan does just need to be aware of it, needs to ask those honest questions of themselves, and ask if they can separate the art from the artist, as it were.
I love that. That's a great metaphor, that is. How do you feel if it was Arsenal? Obviously, you're a big Arsenal fan.
Yeah, I've asked myself that question a lot. But I think my attachment to Arsenal, while I support them, maybe is not so, like that massively strong.
Yeah, we've got your turn now. You're definitely around there.
No. I think I learned a while ago. It generally upsets me more when Derby lose, because I know it's going to be I know it's going to be a rough few hours of work when they lose. But let's change it. If it was the Packers, now it's a different ownership structure.
Here we go.
Let's just say it was the Packers that were taken over. I'd have a real problem with it.
Yeah.
I would still love that football team. I would hate that they have been taken over by a regime like this.
Yeah.
But I would still love that football team. The player, and that would make me a hypocrite. It would make me a hypocrite, unashamedly, because I wouldn't be able to detach my love for that team. With the highs and lows that you go through, they are ingrained in your soul.
Yeah.
I would be a hypocrite. I would still support that team. I would probably get a jersey with the name of a player who they signed, who they signed with that money on a jersey that I would wear. I would love that team. I would hate part of myself for doing that.
Yeah.
Because I can't agree with the human rights record and abuses of that regime. But the Green Bay Packers are a part of me. they are a part of me. You know, I've got a picture of Aaron Rodgers with the Super Bowl trophy in my in my office here. You know, I've got 2 jerseys. You know, my cat is named after a Packers linebacker. That's, you know, my cat Clay is named after Clay Matthews. The Packers, you know, this team is a part of me. I couldn't abandon all that, no matter how strongly I felt about the human rights, how strongly opposed I was to the human rights, because they've been a part of me for a good decade now.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that Derby fans will also contend with. People will tell Derby fans now that they are bad people because they support the football club. That is unfair. If you've been a Derby fan for decades, that to me is unfair.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and you said you named your cat. I mean, I was about this close to naming my second child Bryson after Craig Bryson, because
that's sensational.
Because that's that's what you're talking about. I mean, just on that, there was a Man City fan on Twitter that tweeted, "Talking City," he says, "and DCFC official fans, enjoy what you're about to experience.
I read that. Yeah, I read that.
Your club is about to ensue. The hatred, jealousy, anger from rivals and media, whilst experiencing many firsts, or the first in a long time, will be memorable. Savor it. None of us would change the past 12 years." And I guess when you look at it like that, obviously Man City is, they've gone from this club that, we're down in League One, etc., and then they've worked their way up, and all of a sudden now they're winning everything apart from the Champions League. Anything they can't get hold of. And that's what Derby fans want. We want to.
And that City fan is right. That City fan is right. You poll any City fan, they would not swap this last decade for anything.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's best friend, he's a Man City fan. He's been Man City fan for what, 50, 60 years, and he said this is the best time he's ever had being a Manchester City fan.
My granddad is a Man City fan. He's in his mid-60s now. He was a Man City fan. When Aguero scored that goal to win them the title, I saw him cry for the first time in my life. That was a wonderful moment for me, because I can't imagine what that moment meant to him.
Yeah.
That was everything to me in that moment. In that moment, did I think about the human rights abuses? Did I think about the dirty money? Did I think about all the... No, I didn't. Maybe that's wrong of me, but I just thought about how much that moment meant to my granddad, how much that moment meant to people like him.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful, beautiful thing. If Derby fans can experience those same feelings, they would tell you. I'm almost certain everyone would tell you it's all worth it. Even those that have reservations now, I am almost certain they would tell you if they won the championship by a blistering 10 points and got, I don't know, like top 10 finish the next year, and then the year after with scraped Europa League qualification, and then 5 years from now they win the FA Cup or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Them lifting the FA Cup for the first time since the 40s. I think even fans that had reservations, that would all evaporate. You'd just be in that moment. You wouldn't think about what led to that moment. You'd just be in that moment. And
I think that's what it is really. I mean, you touched on it there, because my dad's seen us win, win the league with Nigel Clough, etc. I would love to share that moment with my dad, and I'm sure there's many a Derby fan out there that have got older parents that have seen Derby, in the glory years, that would love to share that experience with them. And like you say, it's one of them. That thought of the human rights issues, it's gone, because at that time you're living in the moment. You're watching your club achieve success, and at that moment it doesn't matter how they got there. Yeah. And I think every football fan, it is ingrained in your head. It's part of your DNA makeup almost. That it's almost like family. You're emotional with it. You share happy times, you share good times, and I think this potentially could be the start of a really good time for Derby.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I think we're all hypocrites to it. We all sit and watch and enjoy what Man City put out on the field. We all massively enjoy watching Paris Saint-Germain when they're in full flow. We all massively enjoy Kylian Mbappe, despite the money that he was bought with. But that don't stop us just marveling at him, because he's a wonderful player.
Yeah.
So we are all guilty of it. We are all guilty of it. the only way it would stop is if collectively we just said we weren't watching football, and that ain't going to happen. You know, that, so it's an awful place to be in. It's a question you hope that you never have to answer. You know, you always hope that your club can be ran by the local lad, or the local lady that's come up and done bits and done this and done that. You always hope that, and it can be sustainable. But the modern landscape of football, unfortunately, makes that almost impossible. There are outliers in football, but by and large now, it just don't happen no more, man.
No, exactly. And you know, perhaps one day we might see the likes of Kylian Mbappe in the Derby County shirt. You never know.
When he's 35, when he's getting his player coach gig at the age of 35.
I'm hearing Messi's unhappy at Barcelona. Perhaps he'd like to come and come down to the Championship.
Listen, man. All I know is that Philip and Ronald Koeman get on really well.
Exactly.
And all I'm saying is January Messi can start negotiating pre-contract agreements, I think.
Yeah, I tell you what.
Look, you know, we joke, but like this is the kind of stuff that excites like Derby fans, because it's almost like you're playing Football Manager or FIFA.
FIFA Takeover, Bosh. There we go.
It's good. It's good for, you know, you in your sporting life. You live for those happy moments, for those big signings. You know, all I want for Green Bay is for them to win one more Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. Would ultimately, if he did that through whatever means, when I saw him standing on that podium and I'm wasted somewhere in my Packers jersey, would it bother me what means brought them to win that Super Bowl? No, I just think this is great and I live for this moment, and that's all it is. You know, but in your more balanced times, like I said, there are serious questions that as a fan you have to ask yourself. Are you comfortable with it? Are you comfortable buying the shirts, the season tickets? Are you comfortable putting out there that you support the club and this guy? Are you comfortable saying that, you know, you can support the club without supporting what this person represents, because you have always supported this and you have always opposed this, but you can't help if one thing intersects another thing without your power? There's just a lot of questions that you have to ask, and I don't think there is any right or wrong answer, contrary to what I think a lot of people will try and tell you. Because things aren't black and white. Not in any walk of, in any strand of life, things are not black and white.
No. But
Derby's kit, that's black and white.
That is, yeah. Mine's not. Mine's orange. I've got the goalkeeper. It's one of them. I don't know why. I wasn't the biggest fan of the.
You're bigging up Keller. Big up Keller, so you had to rep the goalkeeper jersey.
I have. I've spent that picking him up. But that's the future. Let's talk about the present. So
yeah,
let's do that. So you were there today. You were with Philip. Well, over a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
with Philip. I swear your life must be Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting at the minute.
Pretty much.
Right a little bit, you know. You wrote a great article the other day about 3-4-3. Go check it out on the athletic.com. Bosh. See, I'm plugging it for you now.
That gets the plug in for me. I didn't even pay him for that, listener. I promise.
But yeah, so how did Philip seem today in his press conference? Happy, nervous, or you know?
Yeah, I always think Philip.
Did you speak about pies?
No. So what happens is like the communications department let all the journalists into the Zoom meeting. And then it's normally sort of 5-10 minutes before Koku turns up, because he does the Rams TV interview before he does the one with us. So we're all just sat there, you know, chewing the fat. And I can't remember how we got onto the conversation of it, but I asked one of the journalists what his go-to meal was when he was entertaining. And then I asked if he likes a nice pie, and he likes a good chicken pie, but with gravy. I was saying, you know, we like a good steak and kidney pie.
You sounded like the Rock then. Like pie.
We got into well, because I was like, look, it's a northern thing. You're up north, so you must like pie. And I'm northern, you know, I'm from Oldham, I'm northern, so we like a good pie. And then Philip all of a sudden just appeared on the screen. He was like, so hi, Philip. While we were talking nonsense about pies. No. Pre-game conferences, I always find Philip is very even-keeled, very level, never too up here or too down there after victories or defeats. Post-game, he can be a bit more animated, and his mood is a bit more dictated by the result. Pre-game, he's always on a pretty even keel. Encouraged that Jozwiak will only be out for about a week. His assessment went much better than they initially thought it would go. And Koku described that as a relief. He said that they feared he'd be out for a long time, but after the swelling went down and the assessment was fine, so he'll be back on Wednesday, barring any setbacks. We're getting close to Christian Bielik being part of the first team squad again. That is for sure.
What, potentially tomorrow close or more Wednesday close?
I wouldn't be shocked if he makes the bench tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked, because when he was asked if Christian, he was asked about Christian and said, well, he's available for the 23s, but we'll have to see. And he's really fit. He's training with us now, and he was going to do some warm-up stuff with the first team ahead of the Cardiff game. He was going to do the warm-ups with the squad. And he was asked, are you teasing that he could be part of the squad for tomorrow? And he just went, he's available.
Oh.
And when Philip says he's available, that's almost a green light that he is back. So basically, he could be on the bench for Saturday, for tomorrow, or he could be in the 23s. But we're basically getting to that stage now where his transition from the 23s to the first team squad is getting very, very close. So his return to the first team is imminent.
Beautiful, great news that then. What about Jordan Ibe?
Yeah, they want to see a bit more out of Jordan. He's not played a game of, prior to those 45 minutes that he got against Southampton with the 23s, he'd not played a competitive game of football since September of last year. So they want him to maybe get, I think Koku said he wants him to maybe get 70 to 75 minutes under his belt with the 23s before he's really being considered for selection for the first team. But he says that he is getting closer, he is progressing. So if he gets 70 minutes against, I don't know who they're playing on the Monday, but if he gets those 70 minutes, it wouldn't surprise me to see him even on the bench, part of the next first team squad stepping up. So they're getting there. They're getting all their players back.
Yeah, and I think obviously there's the Rooney question as well. I mean, obviously he's been out. He's missed the last three games.
Last 3 league games. Yeah.
I take it he's travelling with the squad tomorrow or today. Sorry, and he'd be in contention to start or in. Well, that's the thing.
Philip said he was fit, and that he looked fit, and that he played with he trained with the squad today. It would have been interesting, obviously, if Jozwiak was still fit. It would have been interesting to see what Philip did with his team selection. I wrote an article on it. If does Rooney deserve to get back in the team? I think
no. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say no. It's a tough call, because you look at the article as well you wrote on the 3-4-3, and you look at, obviously you mentioned the mobility of Knight and Shinnie. It doesn't offer that. So where does he come in? To me,
it's difficult. Yeah, because on the one hand, he is responsible for the only win. Well, the whole team was responsible for the only win, but he got the goal that was responsible for the only win against Norwich.
Yeah.
That is on the one hand. It is obvious that his final ball is probably the best that the club have got, in terms of set pieces, free kicks, corners, and generally his general eye for a pass. However, the weight of those passes has been hit and miss at times. Mm-hmm. His defensive hustle, while he tries, it just isn't what it used to be. And sometimes, to me, it appears a little laboured and a little sort of tokenistic, where he kind of gets a token jog back in. For me, I think in the couple of games that Wagon has started, his centre forward play has been better than Rooney's.
Yeah.
It's difficult. There is a lot of quality that Rooney does still bring, but I think he sometimes slows the pace down, the lack of energy in the middle particularly. But the quality with the ball at his feet, there's not a moment, I don't think, when the ball hits his feet and you don't think he could do something there. He could just unlock a defence here. And I think that's the argument of putting him in there.
Yeah, of course.
Always the argument of putting him in there. There are a lot of arguments to not put him in there either. It would have been interesting if Jozwiak would have been fit. Now, I actually think the call is easy. You move Wycombe to the right and you put Rooney in the middle.
Not big CKR, big Colin.
You see, and this is another one. Like Colin was really good when he came off the bench against Cardiff.
I'm really enjoying him. He is literally out there to boil the defense's piss. He really is.
He was very good.
He goes out there, and there was a chance late on where he just laid this little header off to Waghorn and put him through. Then Waghorn's shot was saved by Smithies in the
But there was another moment just before that as well where he does the same. He drops deep, he holds the defender off, and he flicks the ball around the corner to Waghorn. His link-up play is very good, and he seems to understand what his role is.
So he's definitely an interesting sort. I mean, obviously everyone seems to have written him off, but I've sort of liked the 2 appearances he's made and like the 10-15 minutes he's had, especially against Forest. I think he just come on and just to wind folk up. I think he wound up Samba and he wound up the centre backs and.
It's a small sample size, but so far I don't think he's really put a foot wrong. And let's be honest here, brutally honest. Expectations were very low from the fan base when he was announced.
Yeah.
His goal scoring record across his career is not phenomenal, but Emil Heskey's was never phenomenal, but people loved having Emil Heskey in their team for what he brought to the team.
I think I saw an interview with Wayne Rooney. I can't remember what program it was on now, but he was asked who was your favourite strike partner to play with, and he said Emil Heskey, and that's for the work he did.
He would do all the hard yards. He would drag defenders around and out of position. He'd beat defenders up. Defenders will know that they've been in a game with him. I think his spatial intelligence was very good, where he knew where to go, where runners could come in. Look, if Colin is that kind of player, where his goal return isn't remarkable, but he lays the groundwork for a lot of goals that Lawrence and Waghorn and Jozwiak and Rooney score around him, then job done. That's all you want. That's all you want from him. But I understand why there was a bit of an underwhelming reaction. But also I didn't think it was fair for a fan base, and I never think this is fair across any fan base before anyone has ever kicked a ball. Don't judge the player before they've had a chance to get any minutes on the pitch. Judge them towards the end of their tenure, not at the announcement video. That to me just isn't fair.
Yeah, no, I get that. So Bournemouth tomorrow then. Tough game. Bournemouth doing quite well. I think they were one of the favourites tipped to get promotion. Derby
unbeaten so far, man. They're unbeaten as well so far.
Exactly. Derby, we're seeing the sprouts of the goodness that we're hoping to see. But we're just not getting the results. So it's going to be a tough game, I suppose. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you this. What's your starting lineup tomorrow?
Marshall, who's fit again.
Oh, I forgot about him, actually,
Yeah. So he trained again today. His injury was only very minor, and they made the call the afternoon of the Cardiff game to not play him. And if you're making calls that late, it means, it's not a big deal. He twisted awkwardly, apparently. So I'd maybe a side or a back issue. So, we're putting Marshall in goal.
Are we sticking to the 3-4-3?
Yeah. In fact, do you know what? I would honestly, I would play the same side, but I'd just move Rooney. I'd put Rooney in the middle and move Waghorn to the right. In fact, no, I wouldn't put Rooney in the middle. I'd put Colin Kazan Richards in the middle, and I'd move Waghorn to the right, and I'd have Rooney come off the bench.
You see, that was my feelings as well. I was exactly the same. I thought let's give Colin a go up top.
I think the limited minutes that he's shown so far, I think he's earned a start to show what he can do from the start.
Yeah, it would be interesting, I suppose, because of let's be honest. We sold Jack Marriott, loaned out Jack Marriott, and then obviously we brought CK on before that. The Kazim Richards signing was never to replace Marriott. It was to replace Martin, in all fairness. I think it was, he was obviously knew Martin was going, nothing he could do about it due to funds, and I think it was length of contract as well, weren't it, was the issue with Martin.
There were a lot of issues with in the end. And I think both Martin and Huddleston, who was obviously not the same position, but I think they both felt a little bit disrespected by how Derby dealt with their contract situations.
So I think realistically then he sort of went, well, last season I had well, Martin and Waghorn, and then Marriott if I needed. This season, I've literally just got Waghorn and Marriott, and I need that other big target man. There's no disrespect to Marriott. At the end of the day, we know he can be a good player. We've seen him do it under Lampard. We've just not seen it under Philip Cocu. I wasn't surprised, in fairness, to see that he'd gone to Sheffield Wednesday. I think I was sort of a little bit shocked to see him not bringing anybody in. But if he's happy with his two target men,
I mean, they did try and get Dursun. They really did push to get Dursun. The problem there was the fee and how the fee would be parcelled out and stuff like that. And with the takeover looming, we don't know the plans anymore. But look, let's just for argument's sake say Mel is still in the fold. The plan under Mel was, I think, that they were always going to, the minute that January 1st went on the calendars, they were going straight back in for Dursun, and that's always the plan.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It just felt like, no, we're not going to bother now. We'll wait till January. His price would be ridiculously low.
Yeah, because he'll only have like 6 months on his contract.
Yeah, exactly. So happy days. He'll be in hopefully in January if obviously this goes on. But then you've got, Dursun himself. I'm looking at him. I'm watching him, and he's scoring, and he seems like he's in really good form.
He's at the peak of his career as well. He's what, 20, 28, 29?
28, yeah. 20,
yeah.
I think he recently turned 29.
Right. So this for him probably represents the biggest chance in his career to play at a higher level and to show what he can do. Championship is a second tier of English football, but it's still a high level. Some good football teams populate this division. It's his chance to show what he can do. And, if Derby can get promoted, that's his chance to be a Premier League striker.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think he'll, if he can continue his form, stay fit, come January, comes here, potentially. I think happy days, really. But yeah, I mean, we're going into the future again, Ryan. How have we done it? We've managed to get into the future.
No. Bournemouth.
Then. So what are we expecting? Are we expecting a tight game, or are we expecting a more open game? Like I said, Derby, they just seem to, I personally think that win against Norwich came at the wrong time, as in just before the international break. Had it come just after it, I think we might have picked up 3 points against Forest, then picked up 3 points against Cardiff at the weekend and been a bit good form. I think we just need that win. Can we get it, Ryan? Can we do it on tomorrow against Bournemouth?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Bournemouth are anything to be frightened of. They're unbeaten, but they've scored 4 goals in their last 4 games. Got 3 goals in their last 4 games.
Yeah.
They're winning games. Like they would beat Bristol 1-0. Before that, they had 3 draws on the spin. Norwich they beat 1-0. Beat Coventry 3-1. Admittedly Coventry is a side that have just come up. So Bournemouth are a team that's still finding their feet. Obviously, new manager has come in, albeit kind of under the same umbrella as Eddie Howe. But a new manager has come in, and they've been tinkering with their squad. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Derby won. It wouldn't surprise me if Derby won. Before the Blackburn game, I wouldn't have been surprised if Derby would have beaten Norwich. Based on Norwich's start to the season at that point. And then obviously the Blackburn game happened and I thought, oh my God, they're going to get beaten 6-0. But prior to the Blackburn game, because Norwich had an unremarkable start to their season as well, still figuring out a few kinks. Bournemouth have got, a couple of match winners in their side. Looking at the likes of guys like Josh King and Solanke, who I think at this level are good strikers. Still like to see more out of Solanke, if I'm honest. Their midfield of Cook and Gosling's really good, and I think Begovic is a good keeper. Don't get me wrong, this is a good side. There's a reason that they're unbeaten and are expected to challenge for not even just playoffs, but to challenge to win that division. If Derby put in that same level of performance and just take their chances, it wouldn't surprise me if they won. Yeah,
and that's the key. Take your chances, I think, because that's what we've not been doing. Is it a confidence issue? Would you say? Do you think? Is it? Obviously, we've not scored a great deal of goals, and I think there was what really showed me was where we're at was in the second half, and we countered really well, and we had Lawrence breaking through the middle. He plays it to Waghorn, and he's got Jozwiak flying through the middle, and he takes on his own and ends up crashing and burning. It goes to the keeper, and I think that there is, if I don't want to say it's necessarily a fitness issue, but it's just that mental sharpness to be aware of the surroundings. And I think that's where we're just, if that notch gets up by about 10%, those chances become goals. It was the same with Shinies against Nottingham Forest. Yeah, he just ran 70 yards up the pitch to get that. It goes onto his weaker foot, but you'd expect him when you're in a position like that, you're expecting that to hit the back of the onion bag, really.
I think also, and Philip had alluded to this after the draw against Cardiff on Wednesday. It's a subconscious thing in that you've not scored a lot of goals, or that you as a team not scored a lot of goals, and you're trying so desperately hard to hit the ball perfectly, make sure it goes here, hit it like this, and you're thinking too much rather than just bang and the ball is gone and out. Now, some people would ask, well, it's his job to coach that. That's very true. If you speak to many sports psychologists, they will tell you that is a subconscious thing. You can't help that. You can't coach that. That is something that you get through with psychology. Yeah. A lot of great strikers, they know where the goal is, they know how they're going to hit it, and they know where and when the ball is going to be out before they've even received the ball. That's why they score so many goals.
Yeah,
it's difficult to coach someone out of that habit of wanting to really, really, really score a goal rather than it just be a natural feeling to them. I think it's very much like I think Ruud van Nistelrooy always described it as the ketchup bottle. You shake and you shake and you shake, and eventually, bang! It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
That I think is very much so. And look, Philip in a way is right as well. Derby did do this last year, which in some ways you think you probably should be better at recognising and not doing it then. Where they would go on a run where they nick games 1-0 or win 2-1 and have the occasional 2-0, and then all of a sudden they put 3 past Swansea, they put 4 past Stoke, they put 3 past Sheffield
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
3 past Blackburn.
3 past Blackburn, 3 past Millwall.
Yeah.
They do have those capabilities, and that's when you can see it. They're not thinking too much. It's just bang, balls out, gone, ball. So I think there is some merit to it. I also think there's a question to be asked of, well, shouldn't they be coached better at this by this point? But I think there is also the issue of a lot of turnover in the squad, particularly at the sharp end of the pitch. Martin's gone, Lawrence was injured, Wycombe was injured, Joseph Zoom didn't play, but he's now also out of the fold and he's gone. So you were asking unnatural strikers to do things that are natural to strikers.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and I think a lot of the fans, obviously, they let their frustrations be heard, with how we've started the season, but we are seeing those green shoots, and we are seeing that it is almost there. It almost feels that once we click, we're going to get to that point where we give someone a good hiding.
I said this like last season, and they did. They absolutely battered Stoke, and they absolutely battered Sheffield Wednesday as well. And I said this on another podcast earlier in the week, is that with this team, with this iteration of Derby, you see a lot every game that makes you think that Cocker is worth sticking with, that this whole project identity and ideology is worth sticking with. You do also see a lot of, you should be better at this by now, and you should be better at this by now, and that's the maddening thing. They constantly take a couple of steps forwards, a couple of steps back. Earlier in the season they couldn't create chances for Toffee. They move forward and start creating. The step back is they can't win games. But yeah, they will be, if they keep playing at this level that they have done now for 4 games. For 90, I think the last 2 they've pretty much done it for 90 minutes as well. They'll give someone a good hiding.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, currently I think we look defensively sound. Yes, we keep leaking the odd goal. I mean, I look at the Huddersfield goal and they just passed their way through. It was all
Nathan Byrne is too high up the pitch for that goal, in my opinion, and Andre can't get across quick enough to cover him. You could argue that Nathan shouldn't be that high. You could argue that Andre should shuttle across quicker or should be wider to begin with, because Nathan has pushed so high. But the bottom line is that game should have been dead and buried already.
Yeah.
That was, in my opinion, Huddersfield's only moment of real quality in the game. Yeah. They tossed in a couple of okay crosses, but that was the only moment of real quality in the game, and they scored from it.
Yeah, and it felt like the same against Cardiff as well. You know,
Yeah, I thought. Yeah,
it just felt like it. I was sat watching it and I thought about 70 minutes. And I thought, you know what, we look comfortable here. Bad idea. I mean, I even said it out loud to myself. Oh, we look comfortable here. You know, a couple of minutes later, bang, oh, great. You know what I mean? It's just that.
Yeah, and that's
quality.
I will say also in Derby's defence, not that it'll mean much. It doesn't chart any points on. But in the last two games, when the game has been 1-1, Derby have looked like the more likely team to get the winner, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you want that from your side when it's 1-1 with 5+ injury time to play, and there's a winner to be had. You want it to be your side that looks the more likely to get that winner. Last year, when it was 5 to play and it kind of looked very desperate at times, the way they attacked. It looked very, very desperate, just hopeful attacks, hopeful flings of the ball. Everything felt hopeful at times last season when they were in a position where they wanted to either win a game or nick a point. This season, in the last couple of games, or last sort of 4 games, hasn't really felt like the Huddersfield game, barring the Huddersfield game, the final ball was an aberration. But the last couple of games, it hasn't really felt like that. It has still felt like they are executing their attacking systems and phases and plans and making good runs and putting good crosses in and really applying pressure that is not just hopeful, put it in there and hopefully something happens. They really are trying to make something happen with their own ingenuity. And I think that's an encouraging thing to have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one things I'm enjoying this press that we're doing. I know you mentioned it in an article in your Total Football article about what Koku did with PSV and the press. We're seeing that now from Derby, from the front three of Waghorn, Lawrence, and Jozwiak. But what we're also seeing is once that press has been broken, bang, they're straight back into this strict sort of 5-4-1 sort of formation. And that's really good to see. And then the other thing I'm enjoying seeing is like you pointed out, the mobility of Shinnie and Knight. But how many second balls we're winning in midfield? They are just they seem to currently.
I think Tom Lawrence and Jozwiak deserve a lot of credit for winning some second balls as well, because they've won some really good ones high up the pitch. Sometimes it's because they've been tackled on a dribble.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter if you're going to go and win the ball back.
No, I just want to say something about Tom Lawrence. He has been absolutely brilliant since he's come back. His work rate is something I've never seen of him in a Derby County shirt, and he seems to be dictating everything going forward. When it gets into that final third, he seems to be telling Waghorn and Jozwiak where to go. At the moment, they seem to be building this chemistry. And I think, again, another couple of games, they'll know where the other player is without even looking up, And I just think Tom Lawrence, he's had his critics, fairly, probably, but he seems just to be wanting to play football now. There's none of this head down and stuff like that. It's just like, give me the ball. I want the ball. I want the ball. I want to create something.
I think the key is he's happy, not just on a football pitch. He's happy in life. I think a lot of us with football players, if you're miserable at home, mate, you're probably going to be miserable at work. If I'm miserable at home, if my home life ain't great, I'm probably going to be miserable at work. Footballers are no different for that. And Tom went through an awful time as a human being. That is going to affect his work, and it did. But he did an interview with the Rampage magazine, which if you subscribe to Derby's magazine, you'll have read it. If you don't, then I encourage you to buy it. My boss probably won't thank me for saying that, but honestly, just for that interview alone, plugging someone else's content, just for that interview alone, it's a wonderful read. It's a magnificent insight into what Tom as a person was going through at that time. He just looks happy again. He looks free, and I think Philip very rightly has got some critics at times, but he has improved Tom as a player individually. He's improved, in my opinion, Martin Waghorn as a player individually. But I think Lawrence is Philip's greatest success story to date.
Yeah.
Because what you see from him now is not what you were seeing from Tom in the sort of middle of November, December time. He's a different animal right now.
Yeah. No, and it's really nice to watch. It's, to me, he's not that scapegoat that anymore. He is that person that we want. When we were missing him, the amount of people that were saying we're missing Tom Lawrence, we're missing Waghorn, all these players that perhaps came under a little bit of scrutiny last season.
Football fans are fickle, man. Because did you imagine when Wayne Rooney made his debut in January that we wouldn't even be out of the calendar year yet, and you'd be asking, does he even deserve to get in the team?
I know. How bad's that?
That's football.
It is. For some people, Wayne Rooney is that first name on the team sheet. For the rest of us, it's no. He's rubbish. He's past it. The thing is, the one thing I will say about Rooney though, when he was fit last season, after he had a run of a few games, he looked the dogs. He really did. Obviously, post-COVID, unfit. You could see he'd put on weight. But then we've seen him gradually get better and get fitter, and he has started to reproduce.
Pre-season he had some He had some niggles as well. Philip said, another kick to the swingers was that just as he had to isolate, Cocu had said that he was probably at 100% fitness again, and then he had to go and isolate and couldn't train with the team for a week, 10 days.
Oh, he's typical, isn't it, really? But yeah, we are fickle. Football fans are fickle. We can't help that. So anyway, Ryan, final question then. Score prediction. And I don't mean for the Packers.
Well, they're going to beat Minnesota. Minnesota are down the top three cornerbacks, and they have no pass rush, and they're all great. So I'll be very unhappy if the Packers don't take care of business this weekend. But I'm going to go 2-1 Derby.
Oh, scorers?
Waggy. Let's pick a left field one. Curtis Davies, because Curtis Davies deserves a goal.
I tell you what, he's been absolutely. He's another player. He's surprised me, and I think he's
Curtis Davies overhead kick energy.
Oh. I loved his Instagram post. I think it was yesterday or today where he said
he showed all of the attempts he's made of it. See, which means on averages, it means he's due to hit one flush.
I know, because he scored one goal for us, hasn't he? I think he keeps getting his head on corners. He always seems to be the man that gets his head to it. He needs to just put another one in the back of the net. I think the last one he came close to was Preston at home. And was it Preston? Possibly Preston last season. And he headed it, and then Waggy just come off the bench. He just turned it in. It was like, you've just nicked his goal there. That was going to be his goal number 2. But
he had one moment in the Cardiff game where he a second ball from a corner that goes out the other side, and the ball gets tossed in from the left, and he gets up to meet it, but nods it over. But that was the closest he's come, I think, this season. But Derby 2-1.
2-1, right? You've said it now. I'm putting that in the Rams Right Prediction League. I'm putting it in there as my prediction.
Put your mortgage on it, do that.
Oh, look at that, Mr. Confident. We like this. That's why people like you on the show, mate, because you're Mr. Confident. It's great.
Actually, please do not put significant amounts of money on this game. I am not a qualified betting expert at all. I hold no responsibility for you having to feed your children with what is left in the bin. Please bet sensibly.
I'm waiting for the comment now. Ryan, I put my mortgage to it 2-1 and we won 3-1. How dare you?
My wife left me. No.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for coming on and giving me your time to have a chat tonight. It's been absolutely amazing, mate. Thank you so much.
Nah, don't worry about it, man. I think about all the great work you do, so it's my pleasure.
And as usual, if you don't follow Ryan on Twitter, then you're absolutely bonkers. His @ is
at RJ Conway 92, and you can read my work over on the athletic.com. Athletic.com, subscribe, please. It feeds me and my family and my awful cats.
I'm going to get paid for this one of these days.
Yes. The Rams Writer podcast brought to you by The Athletic.
Exactly. We'll do it. We'll just hook it up, me and you, mate. It'd be great. Chat every week. Sorted. Jobs are good. And don't worry about writing anymore. We'll just do Zoom meetings on a podcast every week.
All the time. Love it. Here for it.
And of course, you can follow me. I'm on Twitter at Rams Writer, Facebook. Follow my Facebook page, the Rams Writer Podcast, Instagram, the Rams Writer Podcast. And that's about everything I can follow. Remember, if you're listening to iTunes, whatever, remember to like, subscribe, share this if as well. That'd be nice on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So tomorrow then, we're both going 2-1. That Ryan's prediction was mine as well. We're going 2-1 Derby. Wagging to score. Davies to get an overhead kick. Scenes when that happens. Ryan's digest. Remember to tune into that tomorrow after the game. You know, he loves the good digest. And I don't mean the biscuit. I don't mean the biscuit.
See, I'm hoping I get a sponsorship from them if I just keep saying the word digest. And maybe because it's digestives.
Yeah, maybe. Can you call it the Derby
Digestive?
that's what you need to title it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Derby Digestive.
Yeah. We'll get that going
calling me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll call it a wrap there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I shall see you next time. And as always, come on, Derby.